Hello and welcome to Drishti IAS English. I am Aisha, and in today's video we will be talking about, or we will be discussing everything about the United States presidential election process. As the world's oldest democracy is going to election, so it becomes very important to cover this topic because this is a global event which is taking place as the world's biggest economy, world's, you can say, biggest superpower, or the world's oldest democracy is going for elections and the United States is going to vote. So whatever is important from the exam respect, or whatever is important for you to know about what happens in the United States presidential election, how the president is elected, and everything is what we will be talking today. So first of all, let us look at the points of discussion. First, how is the US president elected? What is the process of it? Who can contest the US presidential election? What is the criteria? Presidential primaries and caucus. This is very, very important. Many a times whenever you will read about the United States presidential election, you will hear these two terms. Then what are national conventions? Why are they important? How the voting takes place in the election? And the most important thing is the Electoral College of United States of America, because this is what makes the election indirect and this is what makes the election process little complex in nature to understand. Then the difference of the head of the state between India and the US. India is Prime Minister, US is President. So we will be looking into it also. And then in the end, prelims practice question. Topic is of relevance from General Studies paper 2, that is polity segment. Then we will also come to know about how the president of US is elected. Then what is the difference between the head of state of US and India. So let's begin. Now what is happening is very, very basic thing that you need to know. See, whenever you are talking or you are trying to learn about the other country's electoral system or the other country's presidential election, it becomes difficult for us to understand these things, because when we are reading on daily basis about our own country, our own constitution, our own way of how the government works, and that in itself is difficult to understand. So how are we going to understand in just one go about the other country? So what is important for you to know is the most basic thing, because starting from the basic is what will lead to difficult things. Now imagine we are talking about India. Now what is India? How India works in a very basic sense. So see, we in India have three different segments. First is legislative, second is executive, and third is judiciary. Now we are not talking about judiciary here. We are talking about legislature and executive. Now what is the work of it? Legislator are people who works or who makes laws how the country will run, and executive are the people who works for implementation of these laws. Now what happens is, first we have the president who is the first citizen of India. So there is a president in India, fine. When we talk about the parliamentary system of government in India, we have a president, then we have Lok Sabha, and then we have Rajya Sabha. This is how things work. So the same way the other country, which as of now today is United States of America for us, US also works. Now what happens in US is there is a Congress. Okay. Now there is a Congress. Within Congress, the way we have Lok Sabha, they have House of Representatives. The way we have Rajya Sabha, they have Senate. Very simple. So this is the most basic thing which happens. There is a Congress, then there is House of Representatives, and then there is Senate. Now what is the total strength of the states in US? Now US has a system that the number of states they have, the number of senates is into 2. So United States of America, now this is the map of United States of America, and if we talk about the country, then US as a country is situated in which continent? It is situated in the North American continent, above Mexico and below Canada. Now US, the world's, you can say, biggest superpower, a country which has the biggest GDP of the world, a country which almost is ruling the world and shows the world the direction in which the world moves or the globe moves or the GDP of every country moves. So this is United States of America, and one of the most important point is that it is the oldest democracy of the world, a democracy from where the Indian Constitution has also borrowed many aspects. Like for example, Dr. B.R. Ambedkar, while forming the constitution, has said that India has not blindfoldedly borrowed from other countries. We have borrowed which suits our needs. So the same way, we have also borrowed many features of the US or the American Constitution. Like for example, the most important, that is the fundamental rights, or you can say the preamble, or you can say the judiciary, independence of judiciary, the judicial review, and many more things. Now this is the map of United States of America. And how many states does US have? 50. And as I told you, the number of senates are into 2. So 50 into 2. So that becomes 100. So in total there are 100 senates in America, and each state has the same number of senates. So number of senates becomes 100. And House of Representatives is what we will be going into detail and learning about it, because this, see, the Rajya Sabha process and the Lok Sabha process, it is in India, if we talk about, it is basically about the Lok Sabha, because in India the election of the Prime Minister takes place directly, but in US the elections are what? The elections are indirect. They are not elected directly by the people. The president is chosen indirectly. Now let us know. So India is the largest democracy in the world, while US is the oldest democracy of the world, although both countries are democratic republics. And United States of America is all set to elect the country's next president, that is in the year 2024. And as of now, the president of America is Joe Biden, and on November 5, 2024, the United States of America is going to vote for its president. So the contest is largely between the Democratic candidate, that is Kamala Harris, and the present president of America, that is Joe Biden. He has stepped down and has nominated the Democratic candidate is now Kamala Harris, while on the other hand the Republican candidate is Donald Trump. See, because you hear in news only about two parties, that is Democrats and Republicans. Democrats candidate Kamala Harris, Republican candidates Donald Trump. Do not think that in US there are only two parties. No, that is not the case. There are other parties also. There is a multi-party system. There are many other parties also, but the dominance of two parties can be seen. You do not hear the other people or the other candidate's name, because those political parties are not dominant and they are not very impactful in the electoral process. But that does not mean other political parties are not there. Be very, very clear about it. The two political parties are not there in America. There are multiple political parties in America, but dominant being Democrats and Republican. So the next president of US which will be elected will be the 47th president of the United States of America, and Joe Biden was the 46th president. Now let us know that how is the US president elected. Now what happens is that the United States votes for its president on the first Tuesday of November every 4 years. Now first Tuesday of November means, see, the Tuesday which comes after first Monday is when the US votes. Now this becomes difficult to know that how is it. Now this is fixed, that US votes for its president on the first Tuesday which comes after first Monday. Now why am I using the word first Monday? Because now imagine if this is November and the voting is taking place on 5th of November. Now imagine that 3rd of November, the month starts in a way that 3rd of November, or you can say the 2nd of November is Tuesday. No, that will not take place. First Monday, the Tuesday which comes after first Monday. Now 5th November is Tuesday and 4th November is Monday. So the Tuesday which is coming after first Monday is when the US votes for its president. So the US votes for its president on the first Tuesday after first Monday of November every 4 years. Now 4 year is the term of the president in United States of America, and this is different from India. Like for example, in India the term of office is 5 years, while in the United States of America the term of office is 4 years, and the president of United States of America can run for the elections of the president or can become president only twice. This is fixed. Only twice a person can become the president of America, and this is not the case in India. The Prime Minister of India can sit on the chair for any number of times. Now, the candidates are required to meet certain criteria to be eligible to contest for the post of the President of United States. And what are these criteria? So, the criteria for running for the post of President of United States of America are naturally born citizen of the country. So, the person must be naturally born in the country or 35 years of age or older. Now 34 years of age if the person is, then he or she cannot go for the elections. 35 years or above. Resident of the US for 14 years. He or she must reside in US for around 14 years. Now these are few of the criteria for running for the post of the President of United States of America. Then the candidate must also register with the Federal Election Commission. Now there is a Federal Election Commission and the candidate has to register with it once they raise or spend more than $5,000 for their campaign. Now if a person spends or collects or raises amount of $5,000 or above, then the candidate has to register with the Federal Election Commission. And the federal candidates are required to depute a principal campaign committee. Now a principal campaign committee is also needs to be formed by the candidate, and this principal campaign committee is what is responsible for managing the donations and expenditures for the campaign. Now every candidate who runs for the presidential elections, the person does a lot of campaigning, goes from one state to another state, and that moving from one state to another state, and that campaigning needs money, that campaigning needs capital for its running. Now what happens is that capital is raised in the form of funds. Now there must be someone who is looking after these funds or how these funds are managed. So the management of the funds or the expenditure is what is the principal campaign committee looks into, and a person who raises more than $5,000 needs to form this committee. Then presidential primaries and caucus. Now what are presidential primaries and caucus? These are two terms which you will always find in news whenever you are talking about the US presidential election or whenever you are discussing about the US presidential election with anyone. Now listen to this very, very clearly. What are primaries and what are caucus? Now there is a concept of one nation, one election, and this is what is happening in US. Now what is happening in US is there is a national level politics which is going on or political stature, then there is a state level political stature. Now at every level this is national and this is state. Now both the election is going to take place now. Both the elections are going to take place now. National level election also and state level election also, because national level the president will be indirectly elected, and then at the state level the Electoral College will also be formed. And that is how the Senate is just like Rajya Sabha in India. So Senate, the 100 members of the Senate are not going to go for vote. 33% 33% of the senates, or you can say 33 seats of the senates are going for election. And in senates also, after every 2 years, the number of people who gets retired or who comes out of the senate is around 33%, and that is why in this election 33% of senate seats are going to be indirectly elected. Now, what happens with the primaries and the caucus? Now, once every candidate announces their intention to run for the post of the president, now candidates, they announce that they want to run for the position of the president, then the process of primary and caucus debates starts. Now see, there are many people who wants to be the president of America, but can every person stand for the election? No, that does not take place. Now to give the chance to every person to contest or to debate or to go into the discussions, if the person wants to stand for the presidential election, then the right place is the primary or the caucus, because they take place at the state level. Now let us come to primaries. Now primaries are state level elections. Now primaries are the election which takes place at the state level. Now primaries are state level elections that political parties use to select their presidential candidates. See, what happens is, they are state level elections. Political parties chooses their candidate whom they want to stand for the presidential election, and this is done around 6 to 9 months ahead of the general election, because we all know, even though the voting is going to take place or the voting is happening on 5th of November, but that does not mean that the campaigning is not being done. Campaigning goes on since last 1.5 to 2 years, and the process for the general election takes place around 1 to 2 years. So the primaries, that is the state level election that takes place, and the parties, that is the political parties, chooses its presidential elections around 6 to 9 months ahead of the general election, is what happens in primaries. And the debates and the discussion also takes place among the candidates. So the voters choose their candidates anonymously through secret ballot. So the people who vote in the primaries, they chooses their candidates, that who they want to, or who they want to see to stand for the presidential elections. Then some states may require voters to declare their political affiliations to vote in a presidential primary. So basically what happens in a primary is, people vote for their candidates whom they want to see in the presidential election, and the political parties out of these candidates chooses its presidential candidate. Now this is the place where the people are being chosen, and these people, when they get chosen, they will move into national convention. We will come to national convention. Till now, just remember this, that through primaries the state level election takes place and the few of the people are selected out of it. Then comes the caucus. Now caucus is, you can say, at majority of the times the purpose is same as primary, because through caucus also at the state level the political parties chooses its candidates whom they want to see to be elect or to stand for the presidential candidate. Now in this, any other member also who is not affiliated with any political party and who wants to stand for the presidential election can also do it. If the person has the support of desired number of people and the person is able to convince people to vote for him, then the person can also stand. Like for example, we in India have many candidates who are given the name independent, because they do not belong to any political party. Any political party they do not belong to, so that is why they are called independent, because they are standing on their own. So in caucus also, if any candidate wants to see whether he or she can generate votes, so that person can stand, and in the end the votes are being done and things can be seen that which candidate is actually getting votes and which candidate will be selected to move from primaries and caucus to the national convention. Then participants being to be their party's presidential candidates engage in debate and discussions. Now the people who wants to be chosen for the presidential candidate, they do debates and discussions under caucus. Then other participants then decide which candidate they want to choose and support. Now next comes that primaries and caucus are of three types, that is open primary or caucus, closed primary or caucus, or semi-closed primary or caucus. Now in open primary or caucus, what happens is voters do not have to be registered with a particular political party to be able to vote. They can vote to anyone whom they want to vote. They are not associated with any political party that they have to vote for someone very specific. Then comes closed primary or caucus. Voters can only vote in the primary of the party they are registered with. It means that if the person is registered with any political party, the person will vote for that political party only. It is fixed. That is closed primary or caucus. Then semi-closed or semi-open primary or caucus is a variation of open and closed. In closed, the person has to specifically vote for the political party. In open, they can vote for anyone whom they want to vote for. Now next comes the national conventions. Now what happens is, see, at primary and caucus, the people are selected at state level. Fine. Now when the people are selected at state level, where are they going to go after getting selected? So they will move to the national conventions. I know things are getting little difficult, but we will take it slowly and you will get to know that how things are moving. So these people will go to national convention. Now what happens in the national convention? That every single party organizes their own national convention. And what is the primary goal of this national convention is that the party which has organized its national convention and all the participants who want to stand for the presidential election, the party chooses its presidential candidate during the national convention. And with the presidential candidate, the vice presidential candidate is also selected. And all these selections are being done at the national convention. So the national conventions are where parties select their presidential and vice presidential candidates. Fine. There are two types of delegates participate in national conventions. First, those who have pledged their support to a candidate in primaries or caucus, and second, those who are unpledged and can support any candidate of their choice. So just like closed and open primary or caucus we discussed, that one type of delegates are that they will definitely and they will only support the people who belong to a particular party, but other are people who can vote for anyone. Then state delegates confirm their choices through votes, and the person who gets the majority becomes the party's presidential candidate. Now what happens is that all the members of that party who are present in the national conventions, delegates, now what happens is they all vote. Now when they all vote, what it does is they vote and it is seen that the party's presidential candidate, now the person who receives the majority of the votes is being chosen as the party's presidential candidate, and with the presidential candidate, the vice presidential candidate is also announced. And in case no candidate gets the majority, then convention delegates participate in additional rounds of voting to choose a nominee. Now imagine that all the voting is taking place and equal number of votes comes in favor of two people. Now what happens in that case? Then additional round of voting will also take place to see that who must be chosen as the president's candidate. Now I hope things are getting clear now. See, first at the state level, the candidates were being chosen from the primary and the caucus. Then all these candidates come to the state convention, and that is the national convention. Now what happens in the national convention? Out of all those candidates, the presidential candidate and the vice presidential candidate is being selected. Now how voting takes place in an election? Now what happens in United States of America, as America has 50 states. So basically there are 7 states which are known as swing states, and all these 43 states, the 43 states is almost, you cannot say that it is certain, but you can say that at some point they are almost certain that the votes are going in some one direction or the votes are going in other direction. But there are 7 states which are called swing states, and these swing states are basically the states which plays a very important role in deciding that who will win the presidential election in America. And what are these 7 states? These 7 states are Arizona, Nevada. So this is situated in the southern and western side and southwestern side of America. Then we have Wisconsin and Michigan, that is in north US. Then we have Pennsylvania, which is northeast of US. Then we have North Carolina and Georgia, which is eastern US. So these are the 7 swing states, and they play a very major role in deciding who will win the election, and because the votes are swinged in some or the other places. Now let us talk about how the voting in the election takes place. Now the first Tuesday of November every 4 years. Now the first Tuesday of November, that is Tuesday after first Monday, candidates of major political parties are listed on the ballot. Now what happens is, there is a ballot, and on that ballot the candidates are listed. Then registered voters can participate in the general election even if they did not vote in the primary elections. So the people who are registered voter of the US, even if they have not voted in the primary elections, they can vote in the secondary elections, and that is how the voting process starts. Now let us talk about the most important point, and that is the Electoral College. The Electoral College. Electoral College means that how the selection process is being done. Now when we talk about US, we have already discussed about the 7 swing states. Electoral College means that each state has how many different candidates, or how many candidates are coming from each state, and these people forms the number of people who will go into the House of Representatives. Now look at this map. This is the map of United States of America. Like for example, California has 54 seats, Texas has 40, Florida has 20. So this is how everything is formed. Alaska has 3, Hawaii has 4. So in total, this is how the seatings are being done, and in total the number of seats are 538. 538 is the total number of seats, and out of which 100 are senates, and rest all goes into, you can say 438 goes into House of Representatives. And if there are 538 seats, then how many a political party needs to become the president of the America? Then that is, the number is 270. So a person or any political party needs 270 seats to become, or you can say to have good numbers in the Electoral College. And Electoral College is the reason that why the presidential election of US is known as indirect. In India, the Lok Sabha elections is direct, but in US it is indirect in nature. And why is it indirect in nature is what we will be looking into. Now this is about the map of US. Now look at the Electoral College. This you need to know very clearly. An Electoral College is one of the last step in the election of the US president, and the president is not elected directly, they are elected indirectly. Indirectly, because people are not directly electing the president. People first elect the electorates. Electorates are the people who sit in the Electoral College, or they form the Electoral College, and these electorates then chooses the president. Then the president is not elected through the popular vote cast by the citizens, but through the Electoral College process. I hope things are clear, that the people, they directly do not vote for the president, they vote for the electorates. Electorates sit in the Electoral College, and the Electoral College after that votes for the president, and that is why it is called indirect. And in total there are 538 electors in the Electorate College who indirectly chooses the US president. Then each state gets the same number of electors as its member of Congress, both House and Senate. Now Senate is same, 50 states has 100 Senate. Then there are House of Representatives. So in the House of Representatives, the population base, you can say that on the basis of population or on the basis of size, the place or the state has different number of electorates, while you can say the proportion of each vote becomes same. Then Washington DC has 3 electors. Now let's see, the Electoral College is a 2-step process. First, the parties choose potential electors in states before the election. Fine. Then voters in each state select their electors by casting ballots during the general election. Then names of the potential electors may or may not appear on the ballot alongside the name of the presidential candidate. How the ballot papers in US are made? Now imagine this is a ballot paper and the name of the candidates are written here. Now what happens is, if a person is from Republican or Democrat, then the name will be written like this. It will be written Trump or Harris, and then the name of the elector will be written below it. Now what is happening is that the voting which is taking place as of now in US, that is on 5th of November, they are voting to choose the electorates. So the people will be going to vote in their state, and the electorates which are already chosen by the political parties, so the electorates will be chosen by the people now. And when the electorates for whom the people are going to vote, these electorates, when they come together, they will choose the president. I hope things are clear. The voting will not choose the president. First, the voting will take place, then at each state level where the voting will take place, electorates are there for whom the people are going to vote. So the people are going to vote for the electorates, and when the electorates will be selected, then these 538 electorates will vote for the president, and then the president will be chosen. And that is why it is called indirect election, because people are not directly voting for the president. People are choosing the electorates. Electorates through the Electoral College of 538 will choose the what? They will choose the President of the United States of America. Then the voters who are going to vote, they are actually picking an elector and not the president directly when they cast their vote. And the votes cast by the US citizens, they go to a statewide tally, and there is a rule in US that is winner gets all electoral votes. Now this is an important point that you need to know, that winner gets all electoral votes. What is the meaning of it? The meaning is, now imagine, okay, look at this. Like for example, California has 54 seats. Now what happens is, these 54 seats voting will take place. Now imagine that the Republican gets 55% of votes, while the Democrats gets 45% of votes. Now what happens in America is that the party who gets 55% of votes, it is not that they will only get 55% of share of the seats. No, because they have received more number of votes, so they will have 100% of the seats, because the winner gets all. That is what is its meaning. Winner gets all electoral votes. Even if the voting would have been 51% Republicans and 49% Democrats, then also the Democrats will lose, and the Republicans who have got 51% of votes, they will get all the electoral votes, or they will get all the electorates of that state. And that is why it is called that winner gets all electoral votes. And this is the point which you will majority of the time will hear in news. This is the clause. A political party who even after getting 49% share of the vote receives none, and a political party who gets 51% share of the votes in any state gets all the electorates. And that is why the swing states which we discussed becomes very, very important, because these are the states, or these are the states which swings the, or which can change the, you can say, the scenario of the elections. And the Electoral College cast their votes in mid-December. So the voting takes place in first Tuesday after first Monday. that is fixed. That is when the voting takes place in US. And the Electoral College cast their votes in mid-December. Now this is a process, or you can say a chart, which we will sum up everything in detail. So in the end, what we did was Electoral College casts its vote in mid-December, and when the casting of the votes takes place, then the announcements are done in January, and it is done during the time of 6th January. And what happens? Where are all these votes counted? All these votes are counted in the Congress. All these votes are counted in the Congress. And this is how the complete US presidential election takes place. And now we will sum up in summary. So what happens is, first of all, the elections takes place in United States of America. So first, there are few of the requirements for a presidential candidate to fulfill. That is natural born citizen, minimum age 35 years of age, and that is US resident for 14 years. Then the first step is state level election, which takes place in the form of primaries and caucus, and then the party convention or the national conventions takes place, where the presidential presidential candidate and the vice presidential candidate is elected or selected, not elected, selected. Then what happens is the general election takes place. Election is when the people go and vote for their electorates, and then the electorate college is formed, and these electorate college of 538 people, these electors, they vote, and then in the end the president of the United States of America is selected. And because there are dominance of two political parties, that is the Democrats and the Republicans, one of the candidates or one of the presidential candidate of these two political parties, and as of now it is between Donald Trump and Kamala Harris. So one of these two will be the next president of the United States of America. Now, head of state difference between the US and India. So what is the difference? So first of all, in India the head is Prime Minister, while in US the head is President. In India the Prime Minister is directly elected. In America the President is indirectly elected. In India, Electoral College does not play a role in the election of the, you can say, in the election of the Prime Minister, because the election is directly, but in US the Electoral College plays a very important role. And then the term of office in US is 4 years, while in India it is 5 years. In US the president can sit on the chair only for twice, that is 2 times, while in India the PM can sit on the chair for n number of times. And now in the end, a practice question, and you people need to tell me the answer in the comment section. For contesting a US presidential election, a candidate must be 35 years of age, 25 years of age, 30 years of age, or 40 years of age. Easy one. So give me the answer in the comment section. And that's all for today. Thank you so much for watching. Till we meet next time, keep reading, keep writing, and keep subscribing to the channel. Thank you.
For more informative content, like, share and subscribe, and do not forget to press the bell icon to get the notifications.